Hi, my name is Fred Schultz, and I have the honor of being president of the Indiana Trial Lawyers Association this year. We're living in very difficult times. We all are dealing with a global pandemic, and there are race relation issues that we need to resolve. As part of the response to the George Floyd incident that emerged, I gave a statement on behalf of the Indiana Trial Lawyers. Before I did that, I called and I spoke with minority members of our association, and I listened and I learned. And those conversations changed me, and they were important enough to me that I wanted to share some of them with you. So this is why we've created this video. I hope you listen to what our members have to say, and I hope that you learn as much as I did about what we can all do together to make this country a better place.
I grew up in the South, and the place I grew up at was segregated. The first talk I had about race relation was from Miss Weathers, a white female who basically shared with us that she was a big fan of Martin Luther King. And so she showed us what the white kids' school looked like versus what our school looked like. I grew up in a school system whereby we had a wooden building, had 7 rooms, and they had a nice building, they had new books, and so I learned about the separate but equal because she showed it to us.
I never remember not being aware that I was one, African American, and that 2, that made a big difference. I think that it was something that was picked up from my family very, very early. It was more of an internal caution that was urged when I left my community.
I think I became aware of racism in a neighborhood that I grew up in that was very diverse, where the black kids, including myself, were stopped by police and asked our names and addresses. So I think that impacted how I basically viewed interacting with authoritative figures.
I don't remember a time period when I wasn't aware of racial slurs. I sort of learned it with my English.
I was in 6th grade, and I recall basically other students basically speaking in class, having a good time, and then when I myself would speak out or basically say something to the other students, I was singled out. And you knew that basically you were being picked on, and it wasn't just because of who you was, it was because of the color of your skin, because I was one of the only ones in there of color.
I got in a situation, me and my sister one time, where 2 white males tried to kill us as kids. Basically, I threw a rock and busted their windshield, and she took off, and they weren't going to catch me. I was an elite athlete always, and I could run pretty fast, and so I ran through a field, and we got away.
The talk in a black family is normally administered to the male members of the family first. And what it is to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who and what you are, and that could cause you harm. So as it respects being outside of the community. The first one was dealing with the police.
I have given the talk to my 2 sons and to my grandchildren that are also males. And that talk being basically how to conduct yourself in public, and that you are different because of your skin color, and you're gonna be treated differently. And because of that, you can't become emotional, and you can't basically act out. You have to be respectful.
The junior high, high school era, my father's reminders, let's say, became a little bit more serious, took on a little bit more serious tone. I had seen enough to realize that I needed to listen.
Back in 1987, I had a police officer follow me for about 5 miles, and we got to the isolated area right there between 16th Street and 10th Street off White River, and he pulled me over. And the first thing he did was take his gun and unholster it. So after this, holding me for about 30 minutes out in this isolated area, he wrote a ticket for expired plates. He escalated the situation, tried to bait me, and there was no reason for him to unholster his gun. It was outrageous.
The last experience that I had would have been probably in my late 20s.
The year would have been 1989, and I had purchased a a sports car.
I exited a luxury vehicle, had on a pretty expensive watch that was given to me by my father.
I was stopped, detained for over an hour and a half, searched, and canines and a drug unit was brought in.
And I was stopped in the airport and profiled and asked if they could take me to a room and talk to me. And I asked why. They said that they basically have people that they suspect of transporting drugs. They told me because of what I was wearing, because of the vehicle I got out of, that they thought that I could basically fit the profile of being a drug dealer.
It was obvious that the car had attracted the attention because it's a new car, so it didn't have the tail light out. It didn't have any of the usual things that you have on a car to cause the easy stop. So it was just me on the wrong street in a wrong car. Probably in 2001, I had to deal with the most serious and potentially dangerous racial incident in my life. I had settled a matter in a mediation in Denver, Colorado, and instead of coming home to Indianapolis, I decided to go to Vegas and have Mary Beth, my wife, join me the next day. I was attacked at a casino bar by a member of the Aryan Nation who was ultimately caught, captured, and prosecuted in Nevada for hate crimes.
In my practice of law that I've been in for 36 years, I do not believe that I've actually experienced racism or my clients have experienced the racism.
The racism that has been experienced in my practice directly against me has been minimal, or I have not been aware of it.
I do have concerns about certain counties at some time ago, if the case got venued out when we had change of venue, about how it would be treated. But overall, I think the treatment has been well.
I'm a firm believer in, at the end of the day, performance and results trumps everything.
We've been very fortunate in our state that our courts have been advancing fair race relationship, and I've been really satisfied with the progress that we made.
I view future race relations in a very optimistic fashion. I think that we've made several turns. I think we made a turn in 1968. I think we're making a turn right now. People become aware of the conversation and the reconciliation that we need to talk about and need to effectuate. And it's mainly the understanding.
I do not believe that the current moment, the George Floyd moment, is going to come and go without progress. I think that with the organizations, and especially like the Indiana Trial Lawyers Organization wanting to speak out and have a voice and say things, and the other companies that basically have denounced racism, we're definitely making progress. This is not going to be one of those that's just going to go by the wayside.
We have to be able to do something that isn't easy, but the ground is fertile for this concept, and that is, we have to be able to look at the diversity and look at the disparity in our communities that are racially defined. And we have to understand that those disparities are structurally created, that they're reinforced in a structural manner.
There's a great deal of racial profiling in contiguous counties, but we don't track it because on your driver's license it doesn't identify race. But when you go into court, you see a county with 2% African American, you go into court, half the defendants are black. And then you realize that that can only occur based upon bad police practices. And we see that, and we've accepted that, and I think that's wrong, and we need to work to improve that in our state right away.
52 years ago in the spring, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And he was an iconic civil rights leader, and one that basically wanted peace. He wanted equality. He wanted justice for all people. And he wanted us to reach the mountaintop and get there together. We have not gotten there, as a matter of fact. His famous quote to me was that we all may have come to America on a different ship, but we're all in the same boat. So to understand that we're in this together, we have to solve this together. If we, as a people, don't basically stand up, speak out, have a voice, we have to be joined by whites, browns, and people of influence to basically say enough is enough, that we have to solve this problem. We need change.
It's obvious that we're in a progress mode and things have changed for the positive. We're at that next corner, but this time we don't seem to be afraid of what's around that corner. We seem to be approaching the turn with a little bit more boldness, and that's what makes me so positive.
Thank you to Rich Haley, Nate Lee, and David Hamilton for giving of themselves, for sharing their experiences, and helping us come together. The Indiana Trial Lawyers Association is an amazing organization full of wonderful people. We have always stood on the side of equal justice for all, and I have no doubt that going into the future, we will continue to do so. The future starts today. Let's work together today, tomorrow, and going forward to make our communities, the state of Indiana, and our country a better, more equal place for all.